The first question I would have is that your company has consciously gone for a managed services model.
That's right.
With reference to advertising in IPTV space.
That's right.
Can you tell us why that is the case?
Yes. So what we do is offer a service to television channels that allows them to address their advertising when their channels are carried on IPTV networks.
Okay.
So here we're talking about real television, standard quality television, big screen television, when the television is carried over a fixed line telephony network such as a France Telecom or a Telefonica in Spain or a British Telecom or one of the big telephone networks that offers IPTV. And initially the company was started with the idea of being a hardware platform, of producing a piece of hardware that would allow the television channels to do this addressability, this targeting of their advertising. But what became apparent pretty quickly was that the hardware by itself was nowhere near enough. And what was required was both the software to make it work, but more importantly the service element that would enable the television channel to do the targeting. Without the service, they were just not able to use the hardware by themselves. They needed that interface between the hardware technology and themselves, and we decided to fill that space ourselves.
You must be involved in some of the trials, I guess. Can we perhaps, without naming the customers here, talk about some of the trial data, some of the trial feedback from one of the trials, perhaps?
So we did a trial here in the UK, the second 2 weeks of October, October 15th to October 31st, where a series of commercials was sent to undergraduates, university undergraduates, promoting a high street bank.
Okay.
So what happened was the television channel, which was Channel 4, so one of the major broadcasters here, which also helpfully has a profile which is almost expressly aimed at university students. That's the right type of audience for them. They get a very high rating in that audience share. We took out certain commercials for products that really weren't relevant to students and put in adverts for undergraduates to show them the benefit of this particular high street bank. It went very well from a technical point of view. The television channel was happy, the advertiser was happy, and the agency was happy, because in the end they got a very focused market. They got a market, a segment of the market that was just perfect for them. They're trying to sell a particular product, to what I was saying earlier, for high street banks to undergraduates. That's exactly their market. Perfect. They didn't get the elderly, they didn't get the children, they didn't get the people who want mortgages. They've just got the students. So it's very focused. We have announced a larger, more significant trial in Spain that will start at the beginning of Q2 2008, so April time, with Telefonica, with Imagineo, their service, which right now has around 500,000 homes paying for television. And it will be with a large number, probably 4 of the largest channels in Spain, who will do a trial with Telefonica and us in a network in Spain, offering targeted advertising through to these homes.
Okay, great.
And that will be significant. I mean, that will be 2 homes that are consuming television on television sets. There will be no room for error in that. There will be no margin for making a mistake.
I was thinking yesterday about the problem of local advertisers, the local shops, etc., and how they could leverage this new technology. Being able to advertise on prime time, prime channels, etc., etc. And I could not find a company out there that kind of acts like a clearinghouse, taking advertising from advertising requests from the local businesses and then matching that up with the channels and operator free airtime. That kind of. First of all, is there any such company out there that could be a clearinghouse or IPTV advertising space?
And the logical extension of what we're doing, which is providing this managed service, is that in the end we're matching buyers and sellers.
Right.
So a television channel says, I want advertisers.
Right.
I may have sold a series of adverts through to these advertisers, let's say a bank, but then the restaurant says, actually I'm empty tonight, I'd like to run an advert right now. I've pre-agreed the advert, the terms and all those other features with the television channel, and I'd like to hit 5,000 homes within 2 miles, for example. What you could see is an online marketplace that would then enable the restaurant to say, okay, I'll pay this, and this is a premium over what the television channel is getting in terms of cost per thousand right now. I'll pay this for getting these 5,000 homes today, right now.
Right.
The television channel then has effectively a process that says, okay, if I'm paid this amount of money, I'm prepared to forego the adverts from the National Bank, from the High Street Bank. I'll run those later. I'll run those tomorrow. They're not necessarily time critical for the High Street Bank. They want the impressions, they want the homes, but whether it's today or tomorrow, or this clock hour or that clock hour may not be important. It may be important, but let's assume it's not. Whereas for the restaurant, it clearly is important. They're prepared to pay a premium for that. So in the end, what you could see is a dynamic, real-time market where you've got a buyer of advertising and a seller of advertising space meeting. Now, whether that's provided by PacketVision or not, obviously we would hope that might well be provided by us,
Okay.
but that is what the market will determine. Television channels, the large broadcast channels in virtually every country, are typically full. They sell basically all their advertising inventory. The price obviously goes up and down, but it's basically always sold. But by contrast, the smaller channels, the satellite-based channels, which have obviously come up in huge numbers in the last 10 years, typically they're not fully sold. So they have unused inventory. So they're playing out, but they're not making use of their inventory. They haven't managed to sell it. Now, what I would hope is that if you've got this marketplace that is effectively super efficient, frictionless, and you're an advertiser, what you might be able to do is, or the television channel may say, just before it goes to air, I've got this unsold inventory. It's a little bit like the airlines and the hotels. The price could drop. You might find actually, 2 minutes before we go to air, I haven't sold anything. If I'm given $20, it's $20 more than I would have got before. So what you might find is that for the smaller television channels who don't typically sell their inventory, because the cost of sales relative to the sales they get is very significant. And that's one of their big problems right now. That you need a big sales team to sell the airtime, but the money you get isn't very large, so the proportion that's taken by the cost of sales is too high. If you make it frictionless and efficient, you might well find that advertisers, including major national advertisers, who say, okay, I'll buy these impacts piece by piece by piece on a cheap basis, cheaper probably than the national advertisers, but it adds up to a number of homes that is interesting and significant for them. One of the features of addressable advertising is that, in theory, and I'm confident in practice, all elements are happier. The television channel is able to sell its inventory many times over. The advertiser only buys the piece of inventory that they specifically want, so it doesn't get what's called waste. That's a bit of a negative term, but it doesn't get some of the other parts that it doesn't necessarily value very highly. As a service provider, we provide the service, so we're happy. But also for the viewer, if you are that young couple who are buying your new home, then you don't really want adverts for pensions, and you don't want adverts for student loans. You're not in that market. Send me an advert for something I am interested in, which could be buying a new home or buying whatever is suitable for someone of that age group or profile or where they live. So for the consumer themselves, they're getting a better type of advert, more relevant.